Okay. What the cell has to control this process are things called checkpoints. This is also on page 126. Hopefully you read a little bit about, we're kind of referred to a couple things there. These are kind of, think of them like an inspection point. Okay, certain things have to be true for the cell to be able to go on in the cycle. Okay, so the first one, the first chemical checkpoint is the G1 checkpoint. And if you think about what the cell is doing in G1, it's primarily growing. Okay, so as the cell has just finished dividing, the first thing it has to do is grow. At some point in that sequence, this is kind of what I have in my brain. G1, S, G2, we're going through interphase. Some point in this process, there's going to be different chemical levels. And what they're basically going to check for is the cell big enough to need to divide. It's based on diffusion. Okay, if certain chemical levels build up too much, that's a signal the cell is getting too big. Those things can't diffuse out fast enough. All right. At that point, we get a green light. If the cell is big enough. Make sure you put that in someplace. If it is, then we're going to go on to the next part of interphase. There's no reason to copy the DNA if the cell's not big enough. Okay, so green light, we're going to go on to the next phase, but if it's a red light, what if the cell's not big enough? We got to keep growing. Okay. Pause there for a second. So that's the first check. We don't want cells dividing that are not needing to in the first place. Okay. Let's look at the second one. G2. Okay, so we've gone through G1, we grew. We were big enough, we copied our DNA. We are now in G2 and we need to check, did the DNA copy correctly? That was what was supposed to happen right here. If it didn't, what could happen?
You copy again.
Okay, so let's if it didn't, we're at the stoplight. We're not passing the checkpoint yet. We have to either fix the damage and recopy. There's an option 2 though. Destroy the whole cell. Now that sounds pretty brutal, but there is a reason. Okay, we either fix the damage, get a good copy, or we have to destroy the whole cell.
If you have to destroy it, it's not fixable.
Okay, if it's not fixable, we have to destroy the whole thing. Okay, let me give you a comparison. If I'm making a copy downstairs in the copier room, and it jams up the machine, okay, there's 2 options. 2 options. One, I can try to fix the damage and recopy, or I could just trash the whole machine. Okay. I'm going to try everything possible to fix the damage. Okay, now, what in the world what in the world might be the only logical reason why we would need to destroy the cell? That sounds brutal.
There's no fixing it down. No way.
It's too far gone. There's better reason.
It's,
What if it didn't get fixed and it kept dividing?
then it would screw us up.
Lots of bad copies.
We're gonna make lots of bad copies. Hang on a second. Hang on, Kayla.
Sorry, I did it.
Some of you are missing the point here. All right, Tristan said that we'd make a lot of bad copies. If it jammed up, or let's say something happened with the toner, whatever you want to go with, and it didn't get fixed, everybody who made copies after that, their copy is going to be messed up. It's just like your cells. When it divides again, it's dividing from a messed up cell. And so each of those cells are going to be messed up. Forever. Every cell that came from that original is messed up. That's a problem. Okay. So it's better, I mean, it sounds ridiculous. Why throw out the whole thing? But it's better to destroy that one, have another cell replace it, than to let it continue. Okay. So there's only two options. If we can't do this, we have to do this. All right, that's the second checkpoint. Let's say it did. Let's say it was fine. The cell was big enough, green light. The DNA copied correctly, green light. We begin mitosis. Pro, meta, anatello is what we move into. The third one happens during mitosis. The third check. These are little inspection points. The third check happens during mitosis. We want to make sure the chromatids, gotta know what that word is. You gotta know, did the chromatids separate? If they did, green light, everything worked fine. We go through the whole cycle. We finished mitosis. We finished cytokinesis. We go right into G1. We're a brand new, smaller cell.
Wait, so all of them that go all the way through the start of the new one?
Yep, we're right back to the same cycle. So if I started here,
So pretty much the bad ones are just from being, they're bad from being old. From doing it over and over again.
well, cells can go through about 50 cycles. Think about that circle, going around that circle 50 times. That's the quote-unquote life of a cell. After that, things have accumulated to the point where we're not passing those checkpoints, and they're going to be destroyed. Okay.
So pretty much they got
Up to
a certain
that
amount of time,
point,
they're good.
up to that point,
Certain life
they
or
should be
whatever.
pretty good. Okay. Now, this one's probably the most important, and I think you'll kind of see why. If we go back to our anaphase picture, well, first of all, what step am I in right there?
Anna.
Meta was what I was hoping you'd say.
Oh, they're lined up.
They're lined up in the middle, okay? During Anna, what should happen are these chromatids get separated from each other. Still with me?
Yep.
Okay. What this checks for is, what if this happened? Oh,
Then they throw it back out there.
boy. Okay. And all the rest separated fine. Cody?
Isn't that how mental retardation happens?
Not necessarily. There's a couple different cases which we'll look at probably a little bit more on Friday. But there are some cases where if this were to not be caught, it could lead to some problems. Okay? But not all cases. There's a lot of different things that can cause that, Cody, but that could eventually lead to that. If it wasn't caught, fast forward this in your brain. Goes through telophase, we go through cytokinesis. This cell is going to have how many chromosomes?
44.
Just using my picture, 5. How many was it supposed to have?
43.
4. This cell is messed up because it only has, it was supposed to have 4. So this one mistake trashes both cells. And any cells that would come from those cells. Okay? So this one's particularly important to be caught by your cells. And the way they would fix it, the spindle fibers would reattach to this, push it back to the middle, and try to split again. If it didn't split the second time, then it would destroy the whole cell. Self-destruct. Okay? Question on that?
Why would the cell line just kill it?
All right. This is the way it's supposed to happen. And it should be a nice controlled red or green. Let me show you a second picture.
What the heck? Whoa! That should be our stoplights now.
Wow!
That's a trait.
Yeah, okay.
Do you stop or go?
Okay, so there's a couple things you should notice. First of all,
The stoplights are green.
there's a lot of them. Way more than what they're supposed to be. So that's confusing.
There's a lot more roads.
There are some that have 2 reds. And some of them have yellow or orange on the top.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a real stoplight?
Yeah, I do.
I would hope not.
If
If not, there's a sign someplace that says crash ahead. Okay.
Crash test orange and something else.
Take a right.
Crash test
This is, if you want to know, this is this is called a traffic tree. It's a sculpture actually in London, England.
This is the lights.
Okay, so it's in a park. All right, so it's not for controlling traffic.
Do they actually change?
There's no way. Yeah, the lights do change.
Tom, someone's looking at it, be like,
Okay.
really?
Now,
What are you know? Like someone be looking out while they drive by, like they stop when it turns.
normal,
And normal.
red light, green light. All right, we got stops and goes that tell the cell when to divide, when not to.
Abnormal.
Cancer.
At a very basic level, you could explain that is a cancerous cell. Okay, cancer is essentially confusion. Okay, things have gone wrong. Things have not been caught that should have been fixed. And so it's perpetuated to the point where none of it makes sense anymore and cells are dividing uncontrollably. Okay, it's a different kind of disease because most diseases you catch. You get it from something. Cancer, you don't catch it. It's the person or the organism's own cells that have mutated. They've changed. And so now they've lost the natural balances that say, no, you shouldn't be dividing. Okay, now you can. Okay, cancer cells ignore all those rules and just divide
So
whenever they
they're
want to.
outlaws.
Okay, they're rebellious cells, they're rogue cells that don't have any way of controlling it. Okay. All right.
That's what I go there.
Okay. If you could, if you still have your books, or if you have the online text, go to page 157. You're going to read a little bit about cancer. I'm sorry, 127. What did I say?
You're lucky you did not make any changes.
127.
Yeah, I
127.
had to go 8.
127. 127. I'm sorry.
That's been there.
On the dark side. He's turning to Darth Vader.
We're going to read a little bit about it, and then we're going to see where we have some confusion.
Yeah, they're super red. I think people probably think they're tired.
All right, couple things. Yeah, make sure everybody's got one. All right, couple things. This, as we move into this a little bit today and more on Friday, this topic is not an easy one for many people, okay, including myself. It's not, a topic I really look forward to every year. My grandfather on my mom's side, my mom's dad, died when I was probably 6th grade or 7th grade or so from leukemia. So, I didn't really get a chance to know him that well. My dad's folks, my grandparents on his side, both have had skin cancer of various forms. Grandfather recovered from prostate cancer. He just passed away at 98, but he lived quite a few years after prostate cancer. So, just from my own personal experience, at some point you will know somebody that will face it, potentially die from it. So it's not something that we want to joke about, but many people don't really understand it. And we don't. As a science community, we don't understand much about cancer, but we're learning more than what we used to. And so that's part of my job, is to try to explain it in a way that makes sense at a high school level. But there's obviously a lot of stuff I don't know. And so that's part of what we're going to do a little on Friday. We're going to listen to a guy who's a cancer researcher kind of tell us a little bit of what's the cutting edge research that's going on right now. Before we get to that, though, we have to understand some basics. There's three key parts that could lead to cancer, and that's what you're reading about. 127. I did. I misspoke there. On 127, we're going to look at three things. I'll kind of go ahead and fast forward here a little bit. This is what we're going to fill out in a little bit. One's called oncogenes. One's called tumor suppressor genes, and one's repair genes. I think the repair genes make sense. But the first two are what you're going to read about on 127. So let's take, I don't want to take too long. Let's say about 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes. Read through that page. You've got people around you doing the exact same thing. So you can kind of bounce ideas off of each other, but you should be able to find the answers. Give you about 10 minutes. Okay? Yeah, you can. Take about 10 minutes to see what we can find.
That's a big nose.
It's all on the paper.
Oh crap.
It's not funny.
Why are you tearing up?
It's not funny.
I don't know.
It's on the worksheet. You're filling out the worksheet. You're
It's on the worksheet.
yes, you will be turning it in. If that matters. You're filling it out just because I've asked you. Yes, go ahead. You've got about 10 minutes.
Based on the